Um, yes,
Hello, Mrs. Jenkins. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Before we begin, Miss Jenkins, I wanted to just let you know that whatever you say in here is completely confidential. I wanted to just let you know that this is a safe space. I know that there's a few problems you're dealing with in your family unit, and I just want to let you know that whatever you share in here is a safe space. You won't be judged for it. I'm here to help you with whatever issues that's going on in your family unit and your family as a whole.
Thank you.
And so, what exactly brought you here in today, Mrs. Jenkins?
Well, my husband's been forgetting some things lately, but I think it's going to get better. But sometimes I worry about when I'm not around. Maybe something will happen just because he forgets. He's a little bit forgetful. But when the weather warms up, I think he'll be okay.
Has he always been this forgetful?
No, this is something that's a little bit new since his stroke. Um, he used to be very social and he was part of volunteering and he was golfing. And now that he's had his stroke, he's been spending a lot more time at home. And this forgetfulness is fairly new.
He had a stroke. Can you narrate how that happened? What were you feeling in that moment?
I was really worried because I didn't want to lose my husband. And I know we've had many friends our age who have passed away from strokes or have not been able to use their limbs. But for him, we were lucky that he has a little right side weakness, but in a little bit of a speech complication. But otherwise, he is doing very well.
So basically, he's having just a lot of trouble with memory and a little bit of cognitive abilities.
Yes. Mhm.
And so when he had the stroke, what did the doctors tell you as far as how your life would look like afterwards? Were they able to really give you an explanation as to how the stroke happened, what his functioning would look like?
They weren't sure exactly how the stroke happened, but they said it's quite common for our age, and that he might need help getting dressed in the morning, or he might. It also changed that he has to use a cane now, when he didn't have to previously. So I do help him get dressed in the morning, and he always has to have his cane. But sometimes he leaves his cane in the other room and forgets to use it.
And how do you feel on a daily that now that, you're taking more caregiving responsibilities on?
I It's okay with me. I love my husband very much, and I know that he would do the same for me, and he's going to get better. So this is all temporary.
Oh, I agree. But what I was really asking, like, do you ever feel overwhelmed, or do you feel like you have a good, pretty hang of it? Or like when you first started, did you feel overwhelmed at all at how your life would look like? Or
I I feel I mm, when I first started, I was overwhelmed and worried because I know my husband is very active, and I was afraid that um, he might change and he might become depressed. But now I feel like I've got a good hang of it. He doesn't need that much help.
that's good. Well, since he doesn't really need much help, then would you say that for the most part his functioning is pretty well, despite that he can't really remember things?
Yes, 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 I think so. Just I worry about leaving him home alone, just in case he has that forgetful moment that he has.
How often is he having these forgetful moments?
A couple times a day. Like he forgot um and left his lawnmower going and forgot that he was going to mow the lawn, and it got pretty hot. Um so something like that happens a couple times a day.
And so when you see something like this happening, how in that moment does it make you feel? Like, do you feel like in that moment you're still able to stay relatively calm?
Yes, uh, I th- I think so, except if there's a fire or something, then I would not be calm. I think I would be concerned.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about these forgetful moments?
Um like a 5, because I know when the weather warms up, he's going to get better. He's not going to be forgetting anymore as much.
Is he on medication for being forgetful, or is there really not much you can do as far as that?
No, he doesn't take medication for it.
Do you oftentimes ever feel like you can't really push the burden of having your husband forgetting so much? Do you work?
Um, I, I, I don't work, but I go out with my friends. We have a little bridge club that I do once a week with the girls, but um, I I don't really do. I don't have to work. Neither of us work anymore.
And but how does that make you feel really knowing that like you don't work too much anymore? Your husband is forgetting all these things, and it could really hurt him one day.
Yes, I worry about that. I really worry about him burning himself on his lawnmower or leaving the stove on or something like that.
So that's what where I'm getting to, Mrs. Jenkins. When you see something like him leaving his lawnmower off, do you not ever feel a little fearful for your life or for his life?
Uh, yeah, sometimes I feel a little fearful. Yes.
And so in that moment when you feel fearful, Mrs. Jenkins, where I'm getting at is what, in a way, do you ever think that maybe the burden of your husband forgetting all these things, do you ever get extreme anxiety or anything of that nature?
I wouldn't say it's extreme, but I do worry. I do. I do worry.
And so it seems like what you're here for today is really because you're very worried that your husband is forgetting all these things. You're a bit worried that it could lead to something very hurtful for him or you. Um, and it just seems like you're very worried and you're really trying to find a way to kind of deal with the worriness.
Yes.
And so really, in this session, I would like to really invite you to really think about how your problem is really worrying about him forgetting these things. I would really like to take that worry, I would like to place a name for it for you, and I would like to separate that worry from you, um, because I don't want this to be singular to you, okay?
Hmm.
So what would you like to name this problem that you're worrying about?
Um, forgetfulness.
Okay. So when forgetfulness, starts in your home, when he's there, he's, causing all this chaos. How does it, and not only does it make you feel anxiety, but how does it make you feel as far as the future, now that he's forgetting all these things, do you ever think in the future that with this issue, forgetfulness, What do you think is going to progress into something worse?
I don't think so. I think it's the weather. The weather's affecting him. And I think when it warms back up, he won't be as forgetful. So I think it's okay. It's just for now.
But why do you keep mentioning the weather, Miss Jenkins? You keep mentioning you think it's the weather, but I mean, your husband had a stroke, correct?
Mhm.
I don't really think strokes are affected by the weather as far as their symptoms. So why do you keep mentioning the weather?
It, he, the weather affects him differently. Like, the way that your bones start to hurt more in the winter. I think he he will something about the winter is hard on him. And I think when it's warmer, then he won't forget so much because when he first had his stroke, it was just his voice, his words, and it was his cane. The forgetfulness came later, but I don't I don't think it's permanent.
So I would also like to just break down this issue of forgetfulness. You say that it's affected by the weather, but you're also saying that because he had a stroke as well, it was also partly due to the stroke. So really the forgetfulness is broken down into really the weather and the stroke.
Mhm.
So this is a good way for us to really work on, trying to tackle down the factors that are really causing the forgetfulness. But also, once we tackle down the factors of this, it also brings you more information about these factors and how you can cope with them better.
Mhm.
And so I would like to just say that really you're here today, Miss Jenkins, because you're very worried about your husband's forgetfulness. That is the main objective here.
Yes.
You say that you're not really experiencing like too much high anxiety, but I mean, he's had a few incidents where it could have been kind of life-threatening, and you do acknowledge that that has caused some anxiety for you, correct?
Yes.
So I think for next session, Miss Jenkins, I would really like to focus on how bad is that anxiety when something like that does happen. And I would like to explore coping mechanisms that you already have or coping mechanisms that may help you to feel better in that moment when something like that is happening and to lessen your worry as far as your husband's forgetfulness. So you can go out with your friends and not really worry that your husband is going to leave the stove on. And also just exploring his symptoms as a whole too is going to help with that because exploring just how forgetful he can be, it can really also allow me to give you more information as far as possible, like what can you do at home to maybe build his skills as far as memory.
That would be good.
Okay, Miss Jenkins, and do you have anything to ask me or
I don't think so.
okay. Well, you know my business hours, my hours of operation, and you
Yes.
have my phone number
I wrote
just
it
in
down
case
right
if
here.
okay, and so I will see you next session for Wednesday at 10 a.m. Is that still good?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay, and if you need anything, Ms. Jenkins, like as far as canceling or rescheduling, you can always call me or leave a text message for me, and I will be able to get to my office and reschedule or cancel that appointment for you. I do need a 48 hours advance notice, though.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you, Miss Jenkins.
Bye.